It's Douglas Coleman.
Hello. Well, we are here again, a little bit late, but I like to think of it as fashionably late. Since we have so many people that are probably listening to us, it's one of those deals to just get you all ready for this fabulous show that we're going to be having today. Let me get my co-host right out here. He's the effervescent, phosphorescent, the always inscrutable Mr. John Morgan. How are you, John?
Hi, Douglas. Hi, everybody.
How you doing today, okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm great.
Hanging in, all right.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's get right to our guest. I've got kind of a long bio here to read, so we'll get right to this. After winning a national championship as the youngest head baseball coach in the NCAA, Michael founded Terrorizing Films, formerly Terrorizing Records, in the summer of 2011. Terrorizing has since traveled to 47 U.S. states, filming a featured-length documentary on the science and healing of music as seen through music therapy. Terrorizing will embark on a world tour this year that begins in Ecuador in late August. Michael also founded Beat Teams, short for Heartbeat, which pays homage to the old ideals of street teams, through Terrorizing in the summer of 2012. Beat Teams is an instrument donation program whose mission is to help build and strengthen music education and music therapy programs. So far, Beat Teams has collected over 200 instruments and has helped music therapy programs in 10 U.S. states, as well as one in Haiti and one in Panama through the Berklee College of Music. Please welcome Michael Ricucci. Hey, Michael.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on, Douglas. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Listen, I got to tell you that you get the prize for the most tweets about your guest spot on this show, because a lot of our guests, they don't tweet at all. And I got like hundreds of tweets from you and from your people and your friends and relatives, whoever else it was, about your spot on this show. So I really appreciate that a lot. We got a lot of hype about the show. So thank you. You get the prize for most tweets. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I got to ask you after reading this thing, how did you jump from baseball to filmmaking? That seems like a huge jump.
Yes, you know, I had played music in college and toured with a couple of my buddies and bands and things on the East Coast, and I wanted to get back into music. So when I started the company, it really was a record label in the beginning, and we wanted to build a record label concept that could help, you know, build music therapy and music education programs through live events and CD sales and merchandise and all that kind of stuff. But as I went out and started meeting different business owners and organization executives, I realized that not a lot of people knew about music therapy. And so I kind of was trying to get them involved with something that they didn't really know about. And that's really unfair. You know, you can't really expect much of a return on a relationship built like that. So I was sitting in a restaurant watching a friend of mine play music, and I was with my friend James O'Leary, and we were just sitting down having a drink, and I was like, dude, let's make a documentary. And he was like, okay. I've got a van, and so James and I got in the van and really started this whole journey in March of 2012. So it was a leap. Coaching college baseball was a leap. I was going to be a high school history teacher, and this job opened up, and they asked me to be the head baseball coach. And you know, I realized that they didn't know what they were doing by giving me the program at such a young age. But, you know, we built it up, and we became the best team in the state of Maryland in the 6 years that I coached there. So I think it's all just about enjoying your time, enjoying the time that you live your life, and doing the things like, if you've got to have a job and you've got to make money, then trying to enjoy that and not having it something that you don't. So making films seemed like it would be fun and a lot of work, and it has been both.
Now, were you a baseball player as well?
I played college baseball for my 5 years because I had a really bad injury, a couple bad injuries. But yeah, I played full 4 years of college baseball.
Well, so you must have been a fairly accomplished player then, I would say, if they were going to let you be coach, yeah?
Well, I mean, I was very lucky. I had great coaches growing up. My dad pitched in the Philadelphia Phillies organization and was a Division I coach. So I had a lot of opportunities to improve myself and constantly be reminded how much better I had to be at baseball. I always had a coach at home. But
your dad pitched for the Phillies? Really?
In Double-A, yeah, he made it all the way to Double-A, Spartanburg, South Carolina. I'm actually like 3 hours south right now of where my dad pitched professional baseball, and I actually lived. I didn't even know about it. I lived 20 minutes from where he started his professional baseball career in Batavia. But I ended up being becoming the college's first ever All-American for baseball, and really had a great career. But the college itself didn't really know what it was doing. It didn't have a baseball field. It didn't have a budget. So it kind of just was dumping a program. It didn't want the responsibility of a big program like that. So they just kind of gave it to me, hoping that I'd just be able to manage it and not, nobody would die. So
I'm curious, so did you ever coach anyone we would have heard of?
No, we coached against people you may have heard of. Matt Adams, the first baseman for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, as a Dodger fan, don't talk to me about that.
He attended Slippery Rock University, which was in our region. And I'm trying to think of some of the other kids now are coming up, but we had 6 kids play professional baseball, but none of them made it to the level of, that you guys would know about.
I went to college with Brady Anderson.
Oh, wow. I actually got to see Brady Anderson strike out with Cal Ripken on deck in his very last baseball game. That was my last Brady Anderson memory. Because I used to go to
He was a little skinny kid when I went to college with him. I wonder what happened, how he got so beefy. I can't imagine.
It's those chefs that they bring on the road. They have amazing recipes. And
believe me. He suddenly hits 52 home runs. Believe me, I knew what happened.
It is all a business, that is for sure.
Michael, let's talk about this world tour that's coming up. You're making a documentary film. Tell us about the film first, and then tell us about the tour.
Awesome. The film is a journey it started through the United States of America. It is now spanning the world, and it's involving music therapy, which is the evidence and science-based application of music to achieve non-musical goals. So what we're trying to show is the value of music therapy in regards to how it helps, for instance, autistic children learn to walk, learn to talk. We work with veterans that are using music therapy to help recover from PTSD and traumatic brain injuries, as well as traumatic injuries all over their body. And we're working with seniors, stroke victims, Alzheimer's patients, Parkinson's, and actually showing how music in the specific applications through music therapy are allowing breakthroughs in neurodevelopment, neurodiversity, and a lot of different conditions that we don't necessarily assume we can do a lot about. But with music, we're really showing that people are utilizing this to improve their lives in meaningful, functional, and applicable ways.
Well, I know when we talked the first time, we had mentioned the thing about the therapy dogs that people are using as treatment for, I was trying to think, what was it? Like post-traumatic syndrome for people who were war veterans, things like that?
PTSD, yeah.
PTSD, that's it. There's so many acronyms out there these days. I get them all confused. I don't know which one's which. But it sounded similar in a sense that music, you're using it for the same sort of application, like people are doing with dogs for some of those people.
When I was just filming this past Wednesday, I was filming at the George Center, which is down here in Atlanta. Fantastic music therapy practice. They were doing bucket drumming, which visually is fantastic, and I don't want to give too much away about it, but one of the girls there had a therapy dog, and we've encountered therapy dogs working with veterans at Warriors Salute in Rochester, New York, when we visited there a few times, and basically art therapy, music therapy, riding therapy. People ride horses, actually. It's really about how you connect with the therapy the best. And so we've seen people that and a lot of people do co-treatment. There's multiple therapies going on, but it's all ways to activate different parts of the brain, and only you actually know, and only your brain knows how it's going to best be activated. And that goes for anybody with Down syndrome, anybody with any kind of autism or emotional, behavioral. We also work with people with addiction and the homeless population as well. Everybody is in charge of their own brains, and so that's really what's going to dictate what the best therapy is. And that's what I love about music therapy, is there's no specific music. I always tell people, Beethoven in music therapy, Beethoven and Biggie Smalls have the exact same value, because it's not having nothing to do with the music itself, other than how that person that's using it connects with it and the positive results that will come out of it through their treatment plan. And nobody really knows what that music is until they find out and they apply it. And you know, most people, and there's case studies and a lot of different things that go into it. I don't want to go into too much detail because I'd like everybody to watch the film, obviously. But it is music, like art therapy and these other therapies. It's just about how the individual interacts and best benefits from the interaction between them and their therapist.
Okay, now music is a very subjective thing for most people. I mean, one song might be the greatest song I've ever heard, and to some other guy, it's painful to listen to. So how the therapist obviously would have to get music for the patient that was suitable for their tastes, correct? But then wouldn't it have to go deeper than that in order to be effective treatment?
It goes as deep as the patient is willing to dive into it, so to speak. So imagine a swimming pool where you have limitless oxygen and no bottom, and you can just keep going and keep going and keep going. But if you want to go to the top and get out of the pool, you can do that too. It has everything to do, especially from a neurologic music therapy standpoint, NMT. It has a lot to do with the neural pathways that are created in your brain, which is how you condition is what music is doing and the process that's going on during these music therapy sessions. So whatever you like about music, a lot of it has to do with the environment that you grew up in, and the other part of it is your brainwave frequency. That's a real thing. That's not new age. That's not metaphysical in any way. It can be if you want it to be, but from a practical, reality-based standpoint, brainwave frequency is something that's studied in depth, and it's actually a very popular topic right now of research. So what that means is, for example, and I've seen this before, if we were in an inner city and we saw a folk musician come in and perform and try to do music therapy with some of the kids there, and they really rejected it, and it just wasn't something they enjoyed listening to. It wasn't something they wanted to be a part of. But then they brought somebody in, a music therapist that did hip hop, and they started doing songwriting, and they started performing in class and talking and interacting, and those conversations become the point, especially for kids that are suffering from depression, identity issues. Building confidence is a really big thing, and music is a great way of doing that in a safe and controlled environment. And so these kids flourished. And people were like, because a lot of people are like, rap, hip hop, how does that have value? Well, you might not like it, but that has to do with your environment and your brainwave frequency. It doesn't have anything to do with what the music sounds like. The music isn't good or bad. You said it. It's subjective. So it's your personal taste. And personal taste, there's case studies. The music therapist will interview different clients' parents and loved ones, and they'll ask the client themselves. So sometimes the clients are nonverbal, so they need help in assisting in communication. But like we've seen, music therapy helps people learn to speak. So we've got kids that couldn't speak that are now interviewing for the film, and they're sitting down talking about their life and their goals and their dreams and their aspirations. And so that's more at the heart of what music therapy is trying to do, is trying to actually give you processes and goals in your life that are beneficial to living your life outside of actually using music at all.
Now, you said kids that couldn't speak. I mean, were they physically unable to speak, or they just had some kind of emotional trauma that they refused to speak, or?
The latter is true. We haven't interviewed anybody that suffered trauma and went nonverbal from that, but you're absolutely right. That is a very real thing. What we are talking about, so for instance, there's a couple young kids that have, I don't know if you know what mitochondrial disease, but it's very rare. And basically, and if somebody knows about this better than I do, please inform the chat room. But for my basic understanding, it's mitochondrial disease is a condition that you're born with, and you're basically, the cells of your body lack the energy to be able to accomplish normal functions and body processes. So speaking, kids simply, their cells can't create enough energy for them to speak. That's one. With autism, a lot of the times kids are nonverbal simply because of the way their brains are wired. So with music, that's where music therapy and the whole process, and that's a major part of the documentary, so I don't want to go too much into it, but the information is out there for people if they want to look at it, is to really try to pinpoint parts of the brain where these processes are not functioning correctly, and then there's a treatment program that's put into place that helps the brain basically rewire itself to be able to learn to speak, and that's a real thing, and we filmed that probably the most in the 47 states that we visited.
Okay, now you're taking this world tour coming up starting in August, and I read that your first stop was going to be in Ecuador. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Ecuador.
Okay, I understand the idea of the music therapy. Why go all over the world? Is it because music is the international language, or because you just want to get different perspectives and different music?
Music itself has no cultural connection. Specific cultural connection. Music therapy doesn't have a color. Music doesn't have a color. Music doesn't have a specific, there isn't one culture that lays claim to music. Music is truly a part of each one of us because our hearts beat. And if those hearts don't stay on beat, then major problems occur. Our brains, because of the oxygen and the blood that is pumped in and out of the brain, has a frequency, and it gives it off. So from that standpoint alone, that is a connection between all of us that no book, no politician, no media outlet could ever take away or ever counter. That's a reality that we, I don't think as a world, have fully appreciated yet, because of all of the divides that are set before us. Music is a bridge. It honestly is. And if we're going to do a topic of this depth, that involves the type of science and research and commitment that we've been able to film, then it has to resonate the entire sound of the world. There are...
well put. Very well put.
Thank you. And I really actually appreciate that question, because I think it's fair, and I think people want to know, like, okay, you filmed 3,000 hours, like you've been to almost every single state in the US, like what's the point? The point is this: in America, there's 6,000 music therapists, and that's not a lot. They treat over 1 million people a year. Okay, that's 6,000 people per million. And because of a lot of different issues with insurance right now, not every state can license music therapy, and more are, but that's where it's not even well known here in America. There's 2 music therapists in Iceland. There's 0 music therapists in Ecuador. And at the end of the day, Douglas, I believe that if people see our film, that's great. There's a lot of great documentary filmmakers and documentary films and movies in general that are out there. And I hope that ours is one of them. And I'm going to work my butt off with my team to make that a reality. But beyond that, we want to see an actual result. We don't want to just put it on everybody else to watch our documentary and do all the work. We don't want to just say, okay, we filmed a movie, we're going to go film something different. Like, we really want to make an impact in different places, and in hopes that the culture of Ecuador isn't going to be fed a Western ideal of this is how you do music therapy. These are the songs that you play. It has nothing to do with that. In fact, the team that I'm working with, and I have to give a shout out to Angie Kopshai, who's put all of this together, who runs, she's the owner and founder of Music Therapy Services of Portland. She's put this together. Her team's learning Spanish to be able to effectively communicate, so that we don't need the use of a translator, so that we can really understand each other, and that this community can know that the programs that are going to be created created will be in their image, and they're going to be the directors, and they're going to be the founders, and they're going to be the people that execute this, that benefit their community. Because through my research, and which is the research of doctors and scientists that are far smarter than I am, the culture that works the best, especially with hospice patients, believe it or not, the music that works the best is the music that is most indigenous to where they grew up. So if you grew up in America, an American music is more likely to work. If you grew up in Italy, and that was something that was a part of your childhood, it's a good chance that will work as well. So that all has value, and if we're going to these countries and we're having these conversations with people, then our connections on the internet will become a reality. And so when people tweet us, like all of the people that we're talking with in the chat room, not all of them, but most of them I've met face to face, and I haven't, we'll meet on the road. Like Cindy, Jen, all of Lady Lake, who has helped get this show out there, not just for my show, but a lot of other shows. I've met those people, and so it's really, we just believe that if we're going to do this, then we're really going to do it. And if we're going to be Terra Rising, Earth Rising, the name of the company, then we're going to embody that truthfully and through our own actions.
Now, okay, so you said Ecuador is your first stop. Give me kind of a rundown on how long this tour is and where you're going.
Well,
just kind of rattle off the countries if you can.
Absolutely. Well, what I'll do is I'll give the specific highlights, because I think there's a few places that we're going to that may surprise some people. Okay. But like all of our tours, I like to have, like, our last U.S. tour was slotted for 3 months, and it lasted for 6 months. So I would ballpark it at 4 months, and if I can get 6 to 8 months out of it, Doug, I'll do it. I'll fundraise as much as I can to make that happen, because we don't want to just come into a community and hey, we're here, we're filming, we're gone, and we really want to be able. We have live music associated with this tour. I've got a guy, Jeffrey Marshall, who's going to come with us. He has no arms, no legs, he's got 4-toed feet, and he's performing Dave Matthews and Blues Traveler. And he's fashioned his own style of playing guitar with his feet, and it's amazing. Wow. And so my director of photography, James Sims, it was one of the big reasons why I moved down to Atlanta, was to work closely with him. He's a hip hop artist, a conscious hip hop artist. So we're going to bring that to the table. I can kind of stand in the background and wave my hands like I'm playing guitar, and hopefully people won't get offended. So the people involved with this project are all really talented. So from the country standpoint, we're going to start in Europe. We're going to hit places that are popular, people understand, the UK, France, Italy, Germany, but we'll be going into the Ukraine. We'll be going to Russia. We'll be going to Sarajevo. We'll be going to Albania, Croatia, Greece, and some of these other places, because truthfully, where there is the most pain, there is the most opportunity for healing. And when we're talking about music therapy, it's a cheap and ineffective way to get people help. And you don't need a bunch of Americans coming around doing it for you. It's something that everybody in their country can learn and do, and then implement however they see fit. So we do think it's important to go to all of the different countries that we're connected with, but we do think that it's really important to go to some of the countries that might be going through some difficult times. So we'll be also going to Egypt. I don't know if we're going to be able to go to Tunisia because of what's going on there right now, but we're trying. We have great contacts that we met that live there. Lebanon is another place that we'll be going to, and then hopefully we'll be spending two weeks, at least 10 days in Iran with our guides and discovering the Persian culture, because I don't think what a lot of people understand is how old Persia is, outside of all of the Islamic revolutions and all of that business. The music and the application of music as healing is recorded in some of the Avesta, which the Avesta is for Zoroastrians out there. If anybody's listening that's Zoroastrian, that is their holy book. And so we really want to get to the historical points of music therapy, of music, of humanity, of culture, and really try to set up as many bridges as we can between all of these divides. India is another country, China, Malaysia. We have Sheen, who we met she was a student at Berklee College of Music. She now lives in Malaysia and is really trying to help and build different music therapy programs out there. And so we want to be able to film and assist, because we feel like if we can film different countries, in the different periods of where they're at with music therapy, we can give everybody a view of how to accomplish getting that program done, no matter what stage you're at, whether you're at the absolute ground level, like in Ecuador, or if you're like America, that has a really good and a national body that's set up to be able to support a music therapy program, but all of them can be improved, enhanced, and grown.
Now, I did wanted to tell you that if you do come to Thailand, please look me up or give me a call or email me or something.
Douglas, absolutely. I'm glad you reminded me. Jeffrey Marshall, the gentleman that I was telling you about that plays the guitar with his feet, he met his wife in Thailand, so her whole family lives over there. So he said, if we're going to Asia, we have to go to Thailand. Then I told him about you, and I was like, we're gonna meet Douglas. So yeah, absolutely, we're gonna let you know, and yeah, it would be tremendous to be able to meet you.
When do you suspect you would be in this neck of the woods?
Well, we are working with C2C Media Group out of DC, which is a production company that has taken us under their wing and has come on as executive producers. So we're in the phase right now of pre-production and getting everything lined up with our budget in regards to making sure this happens and we're not stranded in Egypt, calling Douglas saying, hey man, you remember me from the radio? Can you help out? Do you speak, Arabic? Because we're stuck in prison. No, I won't make you my bailout call. Not yet. Not until the second.
Thanks.
But no, we're hoping that we can, we're going to Ecuador for about a week and a half, and that's going to be intense because we're filming the formation of music therapy from the ground level. So we're going to do that, kind of see how it goes, come back, and then figure out what worked and what didn't work. And then we're hoping by November to do the full Europe. We're going to start in Iceland. Got to give a shout out to Iceland Sync. Those ladies, they're actually helping get musicians in Iceland over to the US and US over to Iceland. And we're going to find out more about what they're doing. They're helping with a lot of different things in Iceland. So I want to give them a shout out. That's our very first location that we'll be visiting on the world tour after Ecuador. So I'm hoping November, and then whenever we get back and everybody survives, we'll get into post-production and have a great film, hopefully.
How many people are going?
Is however much we can raise for budget. No, we have a core group of 5, and then what we are encouraging people that want to do is to help us with the fundraising, obviously. So if there's other people that want to come outside of the group of 5, then we're working with them to make sure that they have accommodations and nobody pays for gas or any of that business. But it's a world tour is a tremendous amount of money, so we've got to cover our 5. But we would ultimately love to have 7 if we could get to that point, and we're gonna work towards that. But it's 5 for right now.
You'll forgive me if this sounds like a very Wall Street angle to this whole thing, but a lot of what you're doing with this seems to be rather philanthropic in nature. And is really the intent of the documentary to make money, or is it to further your cause with music therapy, or both?
When I was coaching college baseball, I always told my kids never to worry, never focus on winning, ever. Don't ever think we're not practicing to win, because when you really become, if you become a team that can compete for a championship, you realize that in preseason. You're doing that in the fall, in the winter. So by the time the season starts, it's a residual of your work, basically. And if you did good work, the payout will be fantastic. And if you didn't, you're going to be broke. I don't really try to concern myself with the goal of having this be sold. I want this to be seen at film festivals. I want this to be seen in theaters. I mean, we already have offers from a number of different theaters to be able to show it in the cities that we visited already, as well as some of the universities. So I have complete confidence that the music therapists, the healing, the parents, the clients, and all of the people that are involved with this film, I think people are going to be really interested in those stories. I mean, we have one story that's over 13 years old, and it will take you from the beginning of a young man's life at 3 months old, born with Down syndrome and autism, to this very day here in Atlanta, and his recovery through leukemia. So we think those stories are going to be compelling, and because of how many places we've been, I think the film will do great, but that isn't my goal. My goal is to see people embrace ideas that are truly helpful, that may be outside of the box. It might make you think a little bit, but we want to challenge people to be able to see the value of not just music therapy, but of people with disabilities, of people of different cultures, people of different beliefs, and actually see the unifying factor of music. We want people to realize that when they say music is a universal language, we want to give them a visual for that. Because everyone says that. It's a great cliche, but what does it really mean? How can we see that? How can it be tangible? We want to define that. Music heals. Another very, it's very typical part of our nomenclature. But what does music heals really mean? Is music healing just going to a show and feeling better because you heard music? I would say that is healing. Or is it a young man that can't speak who's used music to learn to talk and now can have a conversation with his parents, and his parents can communicate? Because in the developmental disability community, the divorce rate is over 85%. And so a child being able to communicate to his parents what he or she needs is vital in the parents being able to be a more cohesive unit that can better function to take care of that child who does need their help. So we want to create conversations. We want to create dialogue and opportunities for people to better their communities, better their own, and enrich their own personal lives. And if there are individuals that would like to purchase our film after they see it at a film festival, if we sell DVDs, then so be it. But we are, before any of that ever happens, we stand by Beat Teams and our nonprofit organization in getting these instruments and getting these programs off the ground. We just think that the film complements our effort.
You touched on this just for a second, but I wanted to ask you again. Where would this type of film be typically shown? Because I don't think it would come to the Cineplex down the street.
It depends on how well it does at a film festival, to be very honest with you. That's what they would say the same thing to Michael Moore before he ever showed Fahrenheit 9/11. And, that's...
Well, okay, fair enough, yeah. Just tell me, like, the process, just tell me the process of how you, shop this thing around, and where do you start with that?
One of the great opportunities we have as an independent film company is that we can show it on our own and host live events in all of the cities that we've been to. So if we want to have, and that's simply, will Mike drive around the country or fly around the country and show it? Yes, I will. We have, and I've built this entire mechanism to be able to do that. We see the value in this film being used in the academic community. We see it being used in the healthcare community. We see it being a very theatrical film because of how personal the lives are. I don't know if you've ever heard of the documentary Craigslist Joe, but Craigslist Joe was a guy that went around and used Craigslist to stay at people's houses, and he just, and there were different and interesting characters and stories, and that, Zach Galifianakis, a popular actor here in America, purchased it, and it's on Netflix and it's on different channels. So, there's networks. One of the things, because we have so much footage, we'll be able to shop miniseries and network, actually, like a episodic series as well. So there's a lot of different opportunities that we've been approached with already, and I think because of the diversity of our content, we really want to make sure that we have the opportunity to show it on a number of different mediums. So I want to say yes to all of the different things that you said, because that's what we're aiming for, is to be able to have something that's relevant to a number of different formats. And just like music, we want to be able to reach people in the way that's most conducive for how they're going to receive the information. So we don't want to just be, say we're just going to show it in theaters, or we're just trying to get it to a film festival so somebody buys it. We want to be able to offer a number of different opportunities for people to ingest information and better themselves and the world around them.
Okay, speaking of ingesting, make films using cheese as a currency?
That's just me.
What was that about?
Oh, that's just me having fun. Just because I think one of the questions that a lot of people ask me is how we've been able to do this independently for 4 years, because there has been a lot of we've spent money to be able to do this, and so I try to explain to people that we didn't have any money when I began this, and we've never really had money. It's just being able to go out there and literally making money out of cheese, like creating something out of nothing, and that to me is the entire point and process and model that I use to go about my life. So it's more of a tongue-in-cheek reference, but in reality, it's just saying, I'd love to be able to teach people how to make their dreams happen when they think that, if they don't think that they have the money to be able to do it.
Okay, and there was one other one there that I wanted to ask you about. There's an invisible optional next to federal do not enter signs in the desert of New Mexico.
So when I was going through we're creating a sizzle reel with C2C Media Group in DC, and so I had to go through most of the footage. And one of we have GoPros, and so one of the things we did, especially in the remote locations that we went to, is we put the suction cup on the car and drive through all these different locations. And so we loved going on to just going out into the deserts of New Mexico and Arizona and Nevada, where there's all of these different stories, and exploring. And so one time we were in Corona, New Mexico, and I'll let anybody that knows what I'm talking. If anybody knows Corona, New Mexico, then you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you can Google it. We went there because there's a road that ends in a mountain, and so we drove out to the part where you can drive, where it says it's not federal property, and then the next part over is federal property, and the gate was open, so we drove in, and just went around and discovered and explored, and it was an interesting event. And then when we got back on the highway, there were these two giant black helicopters that didn't make any noise, that just shot right towards us, and they kind of hovered over us very low, probably about 50 yards above us, and they made no sound. And I took them to my buddy who was in the military, and he was, and he verified what we saw, and it was very interesting. It was very, very interesting, but that was real. And so we always like to push the envelope a little bit. One of the when you're trying to get shots, any filmmakers, any photographers out there, risky shots are oftentimes in areas where it's cordoned off, and so you get a lot of natural environments and a lot of natural settings. And if you're serious about what you're doing, and you really want to tell a story, and you want to be able to share information with people, then sometimes you just gotta go over those little imaginary borders once in a while.
Well, I'm sure the U.S. government appreciated you filming their helicopters that didn't make any sound. I'm sure they were overjoyed with that.
We got stills of those. We do have still pictures of those, but
okay.
We were freaking out. We were driving 100 miles an hour because we found meteorites. We actually did find meteorites, and so we were looking at those, and then they just kind of came at us through the side of the car, and so we snapped a few pictures, which we have. But no, I mean, the U.S. government's very busy right now. It has a lot of things that's going on. It's not worried about us.
Well, I'm wondering if those helicopters that made no noise were some of the UFOs that people have been seeing over the years in that area.
Well, that's why I told you to look up Corona, New Mexico, Doug.
Okay.
There's a great book. I want to say it was written in the 70s, called Black Helicopter, and they're often and if there are any UFO tinfoil hat friends out there, fellow friends, I would say, I'll give you a little provocative story. They're often associated with cattle mutilations, and so what was very interesting was the land. It's a big ranch where we were on, and the unique quality about it was that there were hundreds of cows everywhere, and they were in the middle of the road. They were all over the place because this wasn't a maintained road, so it was all. And we were in a Ford Focus, man. It was awful. It was the hardest road I've ever been on. We were like in a Ford Focus, but so there were all of these cows, and there were these these giant black helicopters. So it was neat. It was neat to go to New Mexico and kind of see something that you normally wouldn't see every day.
Well, sounds interesting. You had mentioned Icelandic sync, and I saw that tweet coming through. I was curious, what exactly is Icelandic music like?
Well, I think a lot of people in America here might be familiar with Of Monsters and Men. They had a great album that I believe it came out in 2012, 2013. They're still playing the songs on the radio. And Monsters and Men is about to drop their new album this summer, unless they may have already dropped it. I don't know, but it's I just heard the single off the album. But I think It's a great question. Icelandic music is a lot of folk music. They have their own hip hop culture, metal, death metal, in the Nordic and Scandinavian countries. Really hard metal is very, very popular and good. A lot of hard metal bands from America have made themselves incredibly famous in those parts of the world. But no, Icelandic music has, obviously it's the specific language is used in the songs that are indigenous to the country. So that language in and of itself makes it a different genre of music. One of the interesting things, though, about our journey is we're actually going to discover where parts of music have been shared and how that flow and the migration of music has occurred throughout history. So it's taking parts of Icelandic music, kind of sharing, oh, wow, I can hear Celtic, I can hear Gaelic sounds in there, and then wondering, where did the bagpipes come from? And then you're like, wow, wait a minute, the bagpipes are from Persia? And nobody believes me when I say that, but they are. And you start to realize, like, the world and the travel of people and all of the different, especially with the different, I think in America right now, we're very divided over certain issues, but we don't realize that all of our families and all of our footsteps and all of our different migrations have overlapped each other 100,000 times over throughout the course of human history. So what we say is one color or one this or one that, that's taking into perspective a very tiny dot of history, a couple generations, and it's not truly embracing the unity that is our entire humanity. And I think music really does tell that story the best.
Wow, that was a good cue. I was just that's our 2-minute warning, Michael.
Perfect time.
But it was nice that it was trumpets because it sort of played into the music thing you were talking about. I just wanted to say something about how you said that there were certain things that people thought was, wow, the bagpipes weren't from Scotland, they were actually from Persia. Everybody thinks the ukulele is from Hawaii, and it's not. It's from Portugal.
Yep. Yep.
And the Portuguese immigrants brought it to Hawaii, whenever, 100 years, 200 years ago. But everybody, if you asked anyone on the street, they would say, oh, that's a Hawaiian instrument. No, it's not. Anyways. Well, we've got 2 minutes. Do you want to, I did want to ask you, how many films have you produced to date?
This is our first one, to be honest with you.
This is your first one? Okay.
Yeah, we will have a couple of short videos that we are producing right now. I'll be in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore the next 2 weeks, or the next week, shooting for the McCautry Foundation, which is actually helping homeless foundations be able to get funding and then help homeless people get jobs and clothing and be able to help sustain those jobs. So we're going to be shooting those videos over the next month. So those will be out by the end of August. But no, this is the first film that we've ever done. I've written for a couple different films, for a couple different scripts through an organization that's no longer in existence called Blue Artist. But no, this is the first feature length and full production that we've done as Terra Rising Films.
All right, great. Michael, give us your website information, your Twitter, all that kind of stuff, where people can find you and where people can be kept up to date on the progress of this marvelous film that you guys are doing?
Thank you, Douglas. I appreciate that. And we want everybody to reach out. I'm serious when we say we want to meet you. So if you're in the world, wherever you're at in the world, please contact us on these links. Social media is not just, social media is where we start the conversation, but it's not where we finish it. So our website is going to be completely revamped over the next 2 months, www.Terra, Terra-rising.com. That's Terra-rising.com. That's our main website. We've got a blog coming out, a video log coming out. We're very excited about that. Facebook, facebook.com, Terra Rising Films with an S. That's our Facebook page. We'd love everybody to come visit there. We're most active on Twitter at Terra Rising Film without an S. So it's Terra, Terra, Rising Film. And then on Instagram, which is what we're really trying to blow up because we're going to try, we love taking pictures of all the different places that we visit. So we'd love people to come check us out at Instagram, at Terra Rising Films with an S. So come hang out with us. And seriously, we collect instruments and help build music therapy programs. My email, michael@terra-rising.com. Get a hold of me directly. Like, we want to build these programs. There's no curtain of illusion or anything like that. If you want to help this, if you want to be a part of a feature-length documentary, whoever you are, wherever you're out there, if you believe in the world is a place that can be something where we grow together and we understand each other together, please reach out to me. Thank you, Douglas, for having me on, and everybody in the chat room, everybody everywhere. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Michael, thank you very much. It was our pleasure to have you, and it was very informative. That music, we all knew was a very powerful medium, but it's certainly taking it to a new level, and best of luck to you with
Thank you
that.
so much.
Next week, we are going to have Artist Connect podcast host Matt Kasar will be joining us, and that should be a lot of fun. Thank you, John Morgan. Thank you again, Michael, and we will see you guys next week, next Tuesday. Bye-bye.